Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Lesson number 27, weak verbs, and I think this is lesson number 4. Yes, today. Lesson number 4 for the weak verbs, and today, inshallah, we are going to talk about ajwaf ya'i. So before we talk about ajwaf ya'i, first of all, we need to know that we are discussing about the present tense, al-mudari, and not the past tense, because the past tense we have already completed. For the present tense, yesterday we completed ajwaf wawi, and today, inshallah, we are going to complete ajwaf ya'i. Okay, in ajwaf wawi, do you remember what are the two verbs or the abwab that we have covered yesterday?
نصر ينصر سمع يسمع with the word يقول يقول.
The first one was on the pattern of nasara yansuru, which is qala yaqulu, and we have covered the yaqulu part, the present tense, because the past tense we have already completed. And then in sami'a yasma'u, we have covered khafa yakhafu. And yesterday we discussed about the changes of yakhafu only, which is the present tense. Okay, how many changes are there in the past tense and how many changes are there in the present tense? For ajwaf wawi and ya'i both.
2 changes, Ustad.
2 changes in the past, excellent. And 2 changes in the present.
In the present.
Excellent. So there are only 4 changes, and especially the first change in the past tense, that is very important. And then when we reach to number 6, and in number 6, either we have dhamma or kasra. That is the past tense. In the present tense, the first change is very important. However, the second change is optional, like it's not used. It's the least common used form of the verb, which is number 6 and number 12 for the feminine plural. I'm not saying that we don't need to use them. We do use them, but the changes in the mudari, the first change in the mudari is very important. However, the change which is number 6, we discussed yesterday and we are going to discuss today, inshallah. If you find it difficult, you can, as of now, you can memorize it only. And whenever you get time, inshallah, in the future, you can sit down and write it down and then you can relate it. However, we are not going to leave anything, inshallah. We are going to cover everything. Okay, so as of now, we have covered the past tense of ajwaf wawi and ajwaf ya'i, the past tense. So any questions regarding that or any ambiguity or anything that is not clear?
So,
alhamdulillah, everything is clear. And then we started with ajwaf wawi, which was, ajwaf ya'i, that was the present tense. So yesterday we discussed yaqulu and yakhafu. And today, inshallah, we are going to discuss ajwaf ya'i, which is ba'a yabi'u and sha'a yasha'u. Okay, so the first one, as we can see here, it's on the wazn of daraba yadribu, and inshallah you will never forget, because I'm giving you both the real verb without any weak letters, and then we are discussing the ones that have weak letters. And when you go through all the conjugation of yadribu, you will always remember that this is the most common used bab of ajwaf ya'i. In ajwaf ya'i, we have either daraba yadribu or we have sami'a yasma'u. In fact, sami'a yasma'u is common in both. It is common in ajwaf wawi and it is common in ajwaf ya'i. So both of them have sami'a yasma'u. However, in ajwaf wawi, the most common is nasara yansuru and the verb is qala yaqulu. And in ajwaf ya'i, the most common is daraba yadribu, which is ba'a yabi'u. Okay, now first, as we do as usual, so we have a look at the root letters. So the verb that does not have weak letters is daraba, daraba. And on the same pattern, we have ba, ya, a. So that means here in the middle, we have a weak letter. That's why we call it ajwaf, because it has a weak letter in the middle. Okay, now, do you remember yesterday that the change that we talked about, yaqulu? Do you remember the change? What was the change in yaqulu?
Yes, Ustad. Yeah, yes, Ustad. Wow with sakin. The preceded letter is Dhamma.
Wow has Dhamma.
So sorry, Dhamma. So wow has Dhamma. The preceded letter is sakin. So that is the haraka is interchange. So the kaf, kaf gets Dhamma and wav gets sakin.
Excellent, and it becomes yaqulu. So it's basically yaqulu, and it's not like morphologically or like linguistically, it's not right to read wow with Dhamma when the letter before it is sakin. So as we can see here that the qaf is sakin before it. So what happens, wow transfers Dhamma to the sakin and it becomes sakin by itself. So it becomes yaqulu. Instead of yaqulu, it becomes yaqulu. And today we have the same, by the way, the rule is similar. Here we have, over there we had the bab of nasara yansuru, and here we have the bab of daraba yadribu. So we are only looking at the present tense. In present tense we have yadribu, and here we have ya and ya, so both of them are common. Then dad is sakin and ba is sakin. Then ra has kasra and ya has kasra, and ba has dhamma and ain has dhamma. So we have 5 letters here and 5 letters here, and all of them are equal. However, we know that when there is a weak letter, there is going to be a change. And the change is similar to what we had for yaqulu and yaqulu. The similar thing happens over here. Ya is mutaharrik, and the letter before it is sakin. And again, when ya is mutaharrik and the letter before it is sakin, it's not like, as we discussed earlier, like morphologically, it's not right to read it like this, or the Arabs didn't like to read it like this. So what they said we know that ya is the sister of kasra. So this kasra goes back to the sakin letter. And when it comes to the sakin letter, then what happens? Ya itself becomes sakin, and it becomes yabiyu. It becomes yabiyu. So what happened here again? Ba is sakin, ya has kasra, and the letter before it is sakin. So what ya will do? It will transfer the letter to the sakin, and it becomes sakin by itself. And then we will read it as yabiyu. So it will be yabiyu on the pattern of yadribu. Yabiyu and yadribu. So is this clear? Anything that is not clear about this rule here?
Alhamdulillah, it's clear, Ustad.
Yeah, it's basically similar to yaqulu. Over there, dhamma was shifted to the sakin, and here kasra is shifted to the sakin. And then ya becomes sakin by itself, and that's why it is yabiyu. So yadribu and yabiyu, both of them have the same pattern. Okay, now let's go back as we do always, like, so the first one is clear now. So we have the first one is on the pattern of yadribu, we have yabiyu, and the second one will be yabi'ani, because yadribu, you know it, we discussed it yesterday, so alhamdulillah, I'm sure you have memorized. In order to be able to do the weak verbs, you have to memorize the verbs that are not weak or the silent, so that you don't get confused. And we are taking one by one so that we can relate it and we can see the changes, what changes have taken place exactly. So for example, here, as we can see here, the kasra was shifted and ya has become sakin, so it has changed into yabiyu. And then the second one will be yabi'ani, and the plural will be yabi'una. Then we have tabi'u, tabi'ani, and of course we know that when we reach the 6th form, then again there will be a change. As you remember, there was a change in yaqulna, and there was a change in yakhafna, and similarly there is a change here, and here we have kasra. In yakhafna we had fatha, and in yaqulna we had dhamma, but here we have kasra. And why we have kasra over here? Okay, let's go and see. So first we take the verb that doesn't have weak letters, which is yadribna. And on the pattern of yadribna, we have yabiyana. Yabiyana. Why do we say yabiyana? Because ya and ya, then ba is sakin and ba is sakin. And then ra has kasra and ya has kasra. Then ba is sakin, ain is sakin, and noon has fatha and noon has fatha. So again, we have similar kind of situation where we have 5 letters here and 5 letters here. However, we know that when we have the weak letters, then there has to be a change that will take place. So the same rule will be applicable. Rule number one of Mudari. And that rule is that when ya has kasra and the letter before it is sakin, it will transfer the kasra to the sakin letter. And itself, it becomes sakin. So it becomes yabi'na. Now, what happens over here? We have iltiqa sakinain. This is ya is sakin and ain is sakin. So when we have iltiqa sakinain, you know what happens. The weak letter gets dropped. So when we drop ya, what is left is yabena. So when we drop it, then what will be left is yabena, and now it is ready for us. And that's the only change that has taken place. Now we should know that if the change has taken place in number 6, the similar change will take place in number 12, because 6 and 12 are similar. So here it has become yabena, and in 12 it will become tabena. It will change into ta. Excellent. All right, so these are the only 2 changes. And as I said, the first change is inevitable. We have to know about the first change. The second change, if you are sure about it and you know about it, alhamdulillah. If not, as of now, I encourage you to memorize the patterns first. And then after that, if you are interested in going through the whole mechanism, which is not really difficult, as you can see here, if you know the first rule like perfectly, then you can implement the same rule here in number 1 and also in number 6. So now let's go back to number 6 over here. And now we can see here that it has changed into yabena. Then we have tabiyu, the same here, she, here tabiyu, and here anta tabiyu. You know that, right? And then the dual will be tabiyani, and the plural will be tabiyuna. And then we have here tabi'ina on the pattern of tadribina, no change has taken place. Tadribani, tabiyani, no change has taken place. And again here, change has taken place. Similar kind of change has taken place that was implemented in number 6, and the same change has taken place over here as well. And then the last one is abiyu and nabiyu. By the way, what's the meaning of abiyu and nabiyu or yabiyu? Do you know the meaning, by the way?
Sale, sir.
They sell.
Yeah, to sell,
Yes,
yeah.
they sell.
Abiyu, I sell, and Nabiyu, we sell, and Yabiyu, he sells, okay? Please make sure, if you are not sure about the meaning, do ask me, because it's not a good idea to do the whole, like conjugation without knowing the meaning. If we don't know the meaning, it's difficult to relate it. For example, Yadribu, he hits, and Yabiyu, he sells, okay? So let's do the meaning one time. So Yabiyu, he sells. Yabiyani, they both
meal.
sell. Yeah, okay. Okay, yabi'una,
They sell.
They all
sell, okay. Then we have tabiyu,
she sells.
she sells,
She
excellent.
sells.
Okay, tabiyani,
they both
ladies,
they both
okay, or a female sell, okay. And yabi'na,
they all sell.
All ladies.
yeah, they all ladies sell, excellent, okay. Then we have tabiyu again.
You
You
male.
sell.
You male, yeah, or you masculine sell, okay. And then we have tabiyani.
You both.
Two male.
Yeah, you both male or you both gents sell. And then tabi'una, you all.
They all male
you,
sell.
you. That is for you.
You all. Yes.
Yeah, okay. You all males sell. And then we have tabi'ina. Yani anti tabi'ina. You, yeah, anti, you singular, you one lady sell. And tabi'ani, you both females
Both
sell.
ladies.
And tabi'ina, you all females sell. And abiyu, I sell. And
I
nabiyu, we sell.
we sell.
Please.
Okay, if you find it a little bit difficult in the beginning, as we discussed yesterday, so you can, what you can do over here, you can put here huwa, huma, hum. Yani huwa yabiu, huma yabi'ani, and hum yabi'una. And then we put hiya tabi'u, she sells, and huma tabi'ani, and hunna yabi'na. And then from here, anta tabi'u, antuma tabi'ani, and antum tabi'una. And then anti tabi'ina, antuma tabi'ani, and antunna tabi'na. Ana abiyu, and nahnu nabiyu. The reason why I am not putting the damair over here is because we are dealing with the verbal sentence, and I don't want you to be confused with verbal sentence and nominal sentence. But if you want to practice, for the sake of practice, you can put the pronouns over there so that you can memorize it. And once you memorize it, it will be inshallah easier for you. As far as the second or the dual is concerned, in dual, you need to notice only one thing. And the one thing is the first one has ya, and the rest of the three, they have ta. So yadribani, tadribani, tadribani, tadribani. So that is very simple to remember. So when you mean huma, that means they both males, then it will be yadribani, and then the rest, all of them will be tadribani. And how will you know that it means you both or it means they both? Of course, you will come to know about this from the context. Okay, but what I wanted to draw your attention that the dual is not difficult, so we shouldn't leave it out. The Sheikh has left it out, but I want you to complete all the 14 forms because we are going to do it anyways. The 31st lesson of the book is about dual. So before we reach the 31st lesson, inshallah, we are already done about it, and we shouldn't have any issues with the dual as well. So as we can see here, the sound of dual is always there. Ani, 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 ani. You remember the sound, right? What is the sound of the dual? Ani. So yadrebani, tadrebani, tadrebani, tadrebani. So one time we have yadrebani, and then 3 times we have tadrebani for the dual. Similarly, we have yabi'ani, and then the rest is tabi'ani, tabi'ani, tabi'ani. It depends, it's like antuma or huma. So inshallah, from the context when we practice, you will come to know about it. So now you must be confident enough that you are able to do all the 14 forms of the verb without leaving out the dual. We haven't practiced dual for a long time, but now I believe it's the right time to practice it. So inshallah, when we do the amar and nahi, then we also include the dual as well. So is this clear? Any questions about this?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
It's clear. So we are done with alhamdulillah daraba yadribu, which is the most common, and then the second one, as we know, is sami'a yasma'u, and we move on to that one. The changes will be almost similar to the ones that have taken place over here, but I want you to go through one time, this process one time, all the verbs with me, and then the rest is up to you. The more you practice, the more you are going to learn, inshallah. Then we have sha'a yasha'u, and this is on the pattern of sami'a yasma'u. The past, we are already done with that, and today, inshallah, we are going to practice on the one that is the present tense. So the root letters, as always, here we have seen mim ain, there is no weak letter, but here we have ya, which is a root letter. Hamza is not a weak letter. Hamza is not in the category of the weak letters. Hamza is a letter by itself. When it comes to the root letters, then we will say that Hamza is a root letter, and we will not say that it is the part of the weak letters. It only becomes the part of the weak letters when it sits on the weak letters. And even when it sits on the weak letters, then we don't say that that is Ya, we say that is Hamza. Hamza normally doesn't come by itself. And it will be clear, inshallah, when we discuss the handouts, it will be clearer that Hamza can be the part of the root letters, but Alif can never be a part of the root letters. For example, Hamza, we have already learned Mahmuz. Do you remember Mahmuz? For example, Amara, Sa'ala, Qara'a. Yeah. So Hamza can be in the beginning of the root letter. For example, Akhadha or Amara. So it starts with Hamza. Then we have Hamza in the middle of the root letter. For example, Sa'ala. And then we have in the end, for example, Qara'a. And similarly here, we have Hamza as a part of the root letter. So it must be clear now that Hamza can be a part of the root letters, but Alif will never ever be a part of the root letters. So the root letters here we have are Sha, Ya, A. So on the pattern of Yasma'u, let's go down and see here. On the pattern of Yasma'u, we have Yash, Ya'u. Yash, Ya'u, right? So Ya and Ya, here we have Sin and here we have Sha. And then here we have Mim or Ma, and here we have Ya, and this is Ya, by the way. When Ya has 2 dots, that means it is Ya. When it doesn't have 2 dots, then it will be either, yeah, it is either we say Harf Mad or we say it is Hamza. Because when Hamza sits on this, then it becomes Hamza. So Ya, and then we have, here we have Ru, which is Ain, and here we have Hamza, which is U. So Yasma'u and Yash, Ya'u. And the similar kind of change is going to happen. We see here that Ya has Fatha or Ya is Mutaharrik, and the letter that comes before it is Sakin. So the rule number 1 will be implemented. Ya will transfer its haraka to the Sakin letter and it becomes Sakin by itself. So it will be Yashai'u, Yashai'u. Then one more change will take place. And what change will take place there? We have to bring in the letter that is according to Fatha. So the letter that is according to Fatha or the sister of Fatha is Alif, as we know that. So this one here, Al-Ya al-Mad or Al-Ya al-Sakin, then it changes into Alif and it becomes Yasha'u. And it becomes, so 2 changes have taken place over here. Number 1, the haraka of Ya was transferred to the Sakin. And number 2, Ya itself has changed into Alif, and this is what we call Ta'leel. What is Ta'leel? When we change one letter with the other letter, one weak letter with the other weak letter, or we drop it altogether. And that is what we call Ta'leel, and this is what is happening over here now. So first it became Yashya'u, then it became Yashai'u, and then finally it has changed into Yasha'u. Similar changes that we discussed yesterday about Yakhafu. These are the same changes, similar kind of changes that are happening here as well. So if your rule number 1 is stronger and you have mastered it, then number 6 shouldn't be a problem for you because number 1 and number 6 are similar. Number 1 is when Waw or Ya are Mutaharrik and the letter before is Sakin, they will transfer the haraka to the Sakin and then they will change according to the haraka. They will change according to the haraka. If we have Dhamma, then we will bring in Waw, and if we have Fatha, then we will bring in Alif. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And the same here. First we see, or we have a look at the conjugation of Yasma'u, Yasma'ani, Yasma'una. And then we have Tasma'u, Tasma'ani, Yasma'ana. So this one, number 6 changes, and we will see the changes over here. But first we look at from 1 to 5. So Yasha'u, as we can see here, number 1 is Yasha'u. And from Yasha'u, we have Yasha'ani, and then we have Yasha'una. Now here we know that Hamza is a part of the root letter. That's why it has to come by itself. We don't have to change it. We don't have to put it on any other letter because here it is a part of the root letters. So Yasha'u, Yasha'ani, Yasha'una, Tasha'u, Tasha'ani, and again number 6, it is Yasha'na, Yasha'na. Here now Hamza, here Hamza is Mutaharrik or Sakin?
It's Sakin, sir.
It is Sakin, yeah. Okay, so when Hamza is Sakin, then we know that we have to pronounce it with a small jerk, or we have to pronounce it as we say the glottal stop. So it will be Yasha'na. Okay, and let's have a look at the change, similar kind of change that has taken place over here. It is Yasma'na. As we can see here, number 6 here is Yasma'na, and we have to bring in similar to that, which is Yasha'na. Okay, so let's see here. The first letters are the same, Ya, and then Sin and Sheen, both of them are Sakin. Then Mim has Fatha and Ya has Fatha. Then Ain is Sakin here and Hamza is Sakin here. And Noon, both of them have Fatha here as well. So it is, first it is Yash, Ya'na. Then what is the rule, please? You tell me now. Rule number 1.
If ya is mutaharrik and there's a sakin preceding it, then it will transfer its what is that, harakat to the sakin letter.
To the second letter. Excellent. So that's what happened over here.
Yeah.
So it has become yashayna, right? Yashayna. And what is the next change that has taken place?
Yeah, and
what
Hamza both are
suits the
sakins.
whole-
Sakin.
And
No,
what
no,
suits
that rule,
this thing, the fatha is the alif, so we have changed that into an alif.
Yeah, as
Oh,
you can
yes,
see here,
first
ya
is-
is sakin here. It's
Yeah.
The
hiding over
brother
here.
of fatha
Yeah.
is
The weak letter.
Ya is sakin
It's a
here,
sister
so
in the
we have to
language.
change it according to the haraka. So here we have fatha, so we have to bring in the haraka that is according to fatha, which is alif. So ya
Then
sakin
only we
changes
get
into
2
alif.
seconds.
Yeah, and now
3
we have
seconds.
iltaqa sakinain. So alif is sakin and hamza is sakin. So when we drop alif, then what happens? Hamza takes over
I
the
think
place.
last one you made
Yeah.
a mistake. Hey, the Hamza should be there is Ustad
Yeah,
instead
that's
of
right.
Sakin.
Yeah. So in fact, this is also either we write Hamza or not, it will be pronounced as Hamza because alif will only be pronounced when it is empty. When there is anything on it, whether sukoon or whether fatha or dhamma, then we will consider it as Hamza. However, thank you for yeah, it doesn't, Yani, it doesn't put over there. I'm trying, but it says like it's basically Hamza itself, or we can do one more thing. Yes, so now we can make it sakin like this. Yasha'na. However, if you don't see Hamza over here and you see this the symbol of sakin, then it is not alif anymore because alif is always empty. When alif is not empty, whether it has fatha on it, or dhamma on it, or sakin on it, then it will be read as Hamza. So this is Yasha'na. So here 2 changes have taken place. The first is the normal one, as we can see here. The first one is Sakin, and Ya has transferred its haraka to the Sakin, and it has become Sakin by itself. Then it changes according to the haraka that comes before it. And we know that Alif and Fatha are sisters. They are sisters. So that's why here Ya has changed into Alif. And then iltaqa'u sakinain happens, and we have to drop alif, we have to drop the weak letter, and when we drop the weak letter, what is left is yasha'na. So that's why we
Ustad?
get yasha'na. Yes.
I have a doubt, Ustad.
Sure.
You said no need to write Hamza, but if in the verses, if it is like short ana bizallah millil abid, there also ana, when noon alif comes, there is a small o over there, empty 0.
Yes,
So,
that's because of the rules of the tajweed.
okay, so
Ana in
confused,
Arabic.
but whenever this Arabs want to pronounce the Hamza, they usually write it no start.
Yeah,
That's why I'm confused little bit.
basically in Quran or in Arabic language, ana is always pronounced with one haraka. It's not pronounced as harf mad. So it will not be pronounced as ana. It will be pronounced only as ana, which is basically means like this. The pronunciation will be like this, ana. However, in written, what happens over there? In written, it's going to be like this, as you see here, alif, noon, and then we have like this after that. But you will always find it empty, I guess. And also it will be empty. But it is not pronounced in Quran. When we are reciting the Quran, we don't pronounce it. So that's the rule of the tajweed. But if you put sakin on this, then it might be pronounced with a small like glottal stop or a small jerk. So, and that's why it is alif and it's not hamza. But whenever it is hamza, then it has to be pronounced with a small, glottal stop. So it's clear now?
So can I ask something?
Sure, please.
So you said since Hamza is a part of root letter, that's why in Yasha'una we wrote Hamza by itself.
Separately, yes,
I mean,
yeah.
separately. We didn't put it like as a wow as a seat for Hamza. But here in the last Yasha'na we are like we are
Here
putting
it
it
has-
on alif.
Yeah, it has taken over the seat because alif is empty. So Hamza has found the opportunity to sit on the seat. So whenever it finds the opportunity, it will sit on that. Because if
I
we
mean,
don't put,
just
if we
to
don't put Hamza over
summarize,
here, if we don't put Hamza
yes.
here, and if we put it separately, then what happens is, then we will have two separate letters, and then there will be a problem. You see here, so it
Okay,
becomes alif will be
just
there, so it will be Yasha,
right.
and then Hamza will be sakin, so it will be difficult to pronounce. You won't be able to say
So
Yasha,
okay,
nah, so it will be difficult. So that's
Okay.
why whenever it finds empty, and it sits on that, and that's why it is Yasha.
so can we say that Hamza Hamza will not take a seat if it's part of a root letter, but if it's sakin and it is the preceding letter is also
Preceded by
sakin,
fatha.
it will take the seat.
It will take the seat,
Preceding
yeah.
letters.
Whenever it needs to take the seat, it will take the seat. Otherwise, it will be, and it's like very rare that it comes by itself. Most of the times it comes like it sits on the seat, but in some cases it comes by itself, as we have seen here in Yasha'u, and then the first 5 forms of the verb, it comes by
Okay.
itself, yes.
Okay, so Jazakallah khair.
Wayakum. And then we continue from here, Yasha'na, and then we have Tasha'u, Tasha'ani, Tasha'una, and Tasha'ina, Tasha'ani, and then again it will be Tasha'na, Asha'u, and Nasha'u. Okay, now I'm going to give you a verb on the same pattern, which is Yaji'u. Yaji'u. That Yaji'u will be different, it's not on the pattern of Yasha'u. So, all right, so let's translate it first. Yasha'u, so can you please translate from here, from Yasha'u?
He wants,
He wants, okay. Yasha'ani,
they both male want.
they both want, okay. Yasha'una,
They all
They
want.
all want.
they all want, okay. Tasha'u,
Tasha'u, she wants.
she wants,
She
alhamdulillah.
wants.
Yeah, that's what I want you to see, okay. Tasha'ani,
They
Both
both
ladies want.
they both ladies want, and Yasha'na,
they
They
all
all
they
female
all
want.
ladies, yeah, they want, okay. And then we have Tasha'u, you
You want.
male or female?
male.
Male.
Yeah, because female is the only one and only
Yes,
difference. Yeah, that is completely different form. Okay, and then Tasha'ani, you both want, and
Male
Tasha'una, yeah, you all want.
You all male want.
Yes, and then we have Tasha'ina, which is one and only. Anti yani
You female.
Tasha'ina, you want, yeah, and Tasha'ani, you both ladies want, and Tasha'na, you all ladies want, and Asha'u and Nasha'u is the common for both. I want for feminine and also for masculine, and we want for masculine and feminine, it's the same. Now, inshallah, I'm sure that you're getting used to it also here. When you see the sound of una and una, that means that is also for masculine. But how would we know that it is masculine and it is plural? We will see where if it has ya and ta before it, that means it is for mudare. And if we don't have ya and ta before it, that means it is noun. For example, mu'minuna, kafiruna, you remember that, right? So yasma'una and tasma'una is for the plural, and yasma'na and tasma'na is for the plural feminine. So for the feminine, it's slightly smaller, but they and you, both plural, they are on the same pattern. There is only change of alamat al-mudari. Here we have ya and here we have ta. Similarly, yasha'una, we have ya, and here tasha'una, we have ta here as well. And these two are slightly confusing, tasma'u and tasma'u. So depending on the, or tasha'u and tasha'u, depending on the context, you will see whether you are talking about you or whether you are talking about she, depending on the context. Tasha'una, do you remember any verse on the on tasha'una? Wama
وَمَا
tasha-
تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا
إِلَّا-
يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ.
Yes, you see. So ma tasha'una illa an yasha Allahu. And because it is an, because of an, it has become yasha'a. You shouldn't forget that when we have an, then the mudari changes into fatha. And these changes, inshallah, we will talk about the changes of mansub and the changes of majzum. Inshallah, about those changes we will talk on Sunday, and then after that we are going to start our lesson. Okay, what was the other thing that we discussed in yesterday's lesson? Do you remember?
Mafail khamsa.
Did we discuss them all?
No, sir.
Okay, what was discussed yesterday?
And
Al-maf'ul al-mutlaq. Okay, please tell me what is maf'ul mutlaq?
For emphasis, sir, right? Warattilil Qur'ana tartila.
Yes, two maful, sir.
No,
Sir.
it's not clear. It doesn't make sense. I sent you the notes yesterday that we used masdar. That's very important. Yeah, we use masdar of the verb, or most of the times of the same verb. We bring it and we use it, and we know that this is maf'ul, so it is always mansub, and it is used for 3 reasons. But in this lesson, we will take things one by one. So in this lesson, we will talk about the reason that it is used for, and it is used for emphasis. Okay, and the example that we discussed yesterday was warattilil Qur'ana tartila. So rattil is basically rattala yurattilu tartilan. You know that the second form of the verb. So that is on the pattern of sabbaha yusabbihu tasbihan. Okay, what was the other example that we discussed yesterday? Okay, and inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. Okay, idha rujjatil ardu. That is إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا. And إذا رجت الأرض رجا. Okay, excellent. So this uslub is very common. It is, and this is one of the most beautiful, asalib of Arabic language, which really I like it. I like it a lot. That's number one. And number two, as we saw yesterday, that this uslub is difficult to translate, especially it's difficult to translate in English. In Urdu, there is a possibility, because sometimes we can use the same word because it's the same in Arabic and English, so it can be used in translation. But in English, it's difficult to translate it. And as we discussed yesterday, that the translators have some restrictions, so they cannot translate it as they want. But what was the idea that I gave you yesterday? It is called al-maf'ul al-mutlaq. That means the absolute object. So that means it gives the absolute meaning. For example, do something as it has to be done. Perform an action that has to be performed as it deserves to be performed. For example, warattilil Qur'ana tartila. The translation, the rough translation will be, and it's not like the translation, the standard translation, for our own understanding, that recite the Quran as it must be recited, or recite the Quran as it has to be recited. So that means it gives it gives complete meaning, which is difficult to translate, but inshallah, when you know Arabic, at least you can relate it, that what is meant by that and why it has been used. And we know that it has been used for emphasis. Okay, so we have I think 10 minutes, so inshallah we can discuss a few more points in this lesson, because this lesson has lots of new things and new ideas. And here, point number 2, can you see the handouts where it says wallahi laqad kittu amutu?
Yes, sir.
Do you see the same slide, right? The one that I have. Okay, wallahi, what do you know about wallahi? It is qasam, right? It's used for qasam, right? For oath. Wallahi is used for oath, for example, by Allah. Waw is waw al-qasmiya, and we know that it is also harf jar. So the noun that comes after it will be majroor, wallahi. There are 2 of them that are used in the Quran, or 3 of them, wallahi, billahi, and tallahi. But today we are going to focus only on the one that is wallahi. For example, wal asr, wal shams, wal qamar, all of them, and they are used, and this one is used a lot in the Quran. Okay, now wallahi, by Allah, laqad kittu amutu, I was about to die. About kittu, I think, if you remember, I told you that kada yakadu is used for doubt, for something that was about to happen. It has 2, it has 2 awzan. And the one that has been discussed over here, I think this is not the part of the unit, but inshallah, hopefully on Sunday, we will discuss more about it, that when and how it is used to mean about to, and when it means and how it means to plot against someone or against something. So wallahi laqad kittu amutu, by Allah, I almost died or I was about to die. After a qasam, oath, the affirmative madi should be emphasized with laqad. The negative madi needs no emphasis. Here are some more examples. Wallahi laqad ra'aytuhu fi suqi. By Allah, I saw him in the market. Wallahi laqad sami'tu hadha al-khabara min kathirin min al-nasi. By Allah, I heard this news from many people. So after wallahi, when we have affirmative sentence or positive sentence, then we have to bring in laqad after that. However, if we have negative sentence after that, then there is no need to bring laqad after that. Wallahi ma akaltu shay'an. By Allah, I ate nothing or I did not eat anything. Wallahi ma katabtu hadha. By Allah, I did not write this. Okay, now one thing that you should write down or note down about laqad. Laqad, whenever laqad comes in the Quran, it is always al-jawab al-qasam. Yani wallahi is al-qasam, that is the oath. And after oath, we will inshallah discuss about it in detail in book number 3, that always for the oath, there is al-jawab al-qasam. Because whenever we take an oath, then there has to be the oath about what it is about. So whenever you find in the Quran, for example, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. So whenever laqad comes in the Quran, it is always used as jawab al-qasam. That means wallahi is mahdhuf, or it is not over there. So laqad is always used in the Quran as jawab al-qasam, as we can see here. And why do we have to take the oath, by the way? What's the reason?
For surety.
Yeah, for emphasis, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no. When we talk about the Quran, al-qasam in Quran, that is like in the different context. But for us, for human beings, like when we say wallahi, that means like I want to emphasize it because I'm not sure about it. That's number one. Number two, it is haram, and it's like muttafiq alayh, that we should not, according to the hadith, that we can only take an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not by anyone else. Like sometimes people say, I take an oath of my son and of my father, or like, blah, blah, blah. So baap ki kasam, maa ki kasam, whatever, that's not permissible in Islam. If there is any need of taking an oath, it has to be taken in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a kind of shirk, and that is not permissible in Islam. So wallahi laqad ra'aytuhu fi suqi. By Allah, I saw him in the market, and wallahi laqad sami'tu hadha al-khabara min kathirin min al-nasi. By Allah, I heard this news from many people. And among us, like, yes?
That means, so can I repeat this point? If there's an oath in Quran, I mean, if laqad is coming in Quran, either it's like the response to it, either it will be jawab al-qasam of a direct, like watini wa zaytun laqad khalaqna al-insana, or wallahi will be mahzuf and then laqad is used. Okay.
Exactly. Yani laqad means jawab al-qasam. So jawab al-qasam means that qasam is mahdhuf, right? So whenever laqad is used in the Quran, that means it is jawab al-qasam. So Quran has its own beauty, and that's why we find that sometimes we see laqad and sometimes we see wow and then wow al-qasmiyya. It doesn't necessarily has to be wallahi, as you said, wattini was-zaytuni wa turi sinin. So over here we don't have the qasam of the lafz al-jalala. There is a qasam of teen was-zaytun wa turi sinin, and wa hadha al-balad al-amin, and also of the city of Makkah. And then there is no need from, as it is Quran, laqad khalaqna al-insana fi ahsani taqweem. Over there, laqad means the qasam is mahdhuf, and this is jawab al-qasam, that we have created insan in the best possible shape. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Is this clear? However, after wallahi, if it's negative, then we have to bring in ma, where as we can see here, wallahi ma akaltu shay'an and wallahi ma katabtu hadha. By Allah, I didn't write this. Those of us who live here in the Middle Eastern countries, here, unfortunately, it has become a culture of saying wallahi, wallahi, even the kids and my sons and everyone says that, which is not recommended at all. We don't have to make it a habit. And sometimes we say, I didn't mean it, but oath means oath. And when we take an oath, and when the oath is not like, we don't fulfill it, then we know that we have to pay for that. So that's why we need to be very careful about that. Note that the waw in wallahi is a preposition, and so the following noun is majroor. As I said, waw is used as preposition. So waw al-qasam is always used as preposition. So wal asri, wal shamsi, wal qamari, wal tini, wal zaytuni, wallahi, the noun that follows it will always be majroor. We have discussed also here in this unit, we have discussed about al-maf'ul al-mutlaq. And let's discuss a couple of more points so that inshallah, when we come back, hopefully we can start our lesson on Sunday. Dhanantuhu daftari. I thought it to be my notebook. Now, dhanna, the verb dhanna takes two objects, and both are in the mansub. For example, al-jawu jamilun, the weather is fine. Adhunnu al-jawwa jamilan. Okay, now dhanna has its own sisters. And in Arabic, it is called dhanna wa akhawatuha. Inna has sisters, right? Inna and akhawatuha. Kana and akhawatuha.
Kana and its sister.
Yeah, and then we have dhanna wa akhawatuha. So these are basically 5 or 6 words, which in Arabic are called, I'm not going to give you the details, just give a glimpse of this. These are called al-af'al al-qulub. The verbs of the heart or the hearts. That means that they have always two meanings. One is the apparent meaning, the superficial meaning, and the other meaning could be different, which could be the literal meaning, something literal, and it can be something real. And something from the heart and something from the eyes. So this is like, these verbs are really, really very important, and they are used in the Quran, and most of the people misinterpret the translation and they like to translate the way they want. So we need to be very careful. As of now, we are only looking at the i'rab, the ending, the case endings here. And we have seen here that dhanna, always it requires two, it requires maf'ulain, and both of them will be mansub. As we can see here, adhunnu al-jawwa jamilan, the weather is fine. But when you say al-jawwa jamilan, the weather is fine. But when you say adhunnu al-jawwa jamilan, now it can be translated as I think the weather is nice, or you can say I believe the weather is nice. So when you say I think, that means it's something that has got to do with your thinking. But when you say I believe, yeah, suspicion, when you say I believe, that means it is something that is coming from your heart. So that's why it is called al-af'al al-qulub. There are like 4 or 5 of them. Inshallah, when we go or we reach book number 3, we will discuss them. However, inshallah, on Sunday or Monday, I will give you the other 4 or 5 as well. Similarly, al-babu mughlaqun, the door is closed, and adhunnu al-baba mughlaqan, I think the door is closed. Al-imtihanu ba'idun, the exam is far. Adhunnu al-imtihana ba'idan, I think, here I think it has to be translated as I think that the exam is far away for the students, including myself. Anta tabiban, you are a doctor. Adhunnuka tabiban, I think of you as a doctor, or I think that you are a doctor. And haythu, the only thing that you should know about haythu, please write it down, that it is used as dharf, and it is used both as dharf al-zaman and also dharf al-makan. So it's used for time and place, both. Here in this context, it has been used for place. Ijlis haythu tasha'u, sit where you wish. So it's basically translated as where. Ijlis haythu tasha'u, sit where you wish. But as I told you, that in the Quran, it has been used as both. It has been used as dharf al-zaman, and also it has been used as dharf al-makan as well. All right, alhamdulillah. So we are almost done with the handouts. The first 2 parts we don't need to discuss because we have been discussing about these parts for the whole of this week. So we don't need to discuss them anymore because alhamdulillah, I'm very sure that you know them all. Now it's up to you. We have a long weekend. It's up to you to practice as much as you can. And inshallah, when we come back on Sunday, the first thing we will do, we will discuss the mansub and the majzoom form of the weak letters. And then if we have any of the points left, we will discuss the points. And then inshallah on Monday, we are going to start the lesson. Once we start the lesson, that's it, inshallah. Then we don't have to look back.
Ustad, I wanted to tell one thing. Zanna, it is also muhtaj of like Jumlatul Ismiya, but it changes the Mubtada and Khabar both into Mansub.
Mansub, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
All of them like Kana wa akhwatuha, Dhanna wa akhwatuha, and also Kada, as we have discussed today, Kada has also got some sisters. So these sisters, I will combine them all and let you know one time in one shot, so that we don't have to search for here and there, because they are being scattered somewhere. In some parts we find in one book, some parts in the other book. So inshallah, we can combine them in one document and we can discuss them all together. Any other questions? All right. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير.
وإياكم.